Before we start the podcast, I just want to talk to you guys about Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast, and let me explain why. First of all, it's free, so you can get it anywhere, anytime, costs no money. Second of all, there's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, whatever device you choose. As well as that, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more platforms. You can make money from your podcast too with no minimum listenership. That means a nobody podcast like mine can make money off of sponsorships. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So if you haven't tried Anchor or you want to start a podcast and haven't tried it yet, download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's ANCHOR.FM to get started.
You're listening to the Dillo's Dojo podcast, hosted by Dylan Dillo Smith, Midwestern Ontario one and only MMA podcast, where we interview MMA fighters and voice actors like Sergeant Frank Woods.
What is up, everybody? It is Dillo, and welcome to another episode of the Dillo's Dojo podcast. We are on episode 40, everybody. That is a big 4-0 we are on, and today we've got a little bit to talk about. I don't know how long of an episode it'll be. We've got something to talk about. I've, kind of been putting off for a little bit, so we'll get into that in a bit. But real quick, if you guys remember last week, I talked about MMA gaming and how I've become the official voice. Go check out their YouTube channel to see their gaming highlights, their MMA gaming highlights. They have incredible highlights. The players there are actual, incredible phenoms at the fucking game. And, you get to hear yours truly act incredibly excited about UFC knockouts. So go check out their YouTube and just always be on the lookout for their events. Follow them on Twitter at MMA Gaming, and just, if you are interested in being a pro EA Sports UFC 4 player, then hit them up on Twitter as well. They'll put you in one of their closest cards, maybe the next one. So who knows? Anyway, I wanted to also say, as I'm talking about their YouTube, speaking of YouTube, my YouTube channel, Dillo's Dojo, is now uploading all of the podcast episodes the day when they drop on Spotify. So up until now, I think last podcast was the first one that actually dropped the day of. Before then, it was just me constantly uploading them in a massive fucking span just so I can catch up and then I can start doing this. So if you are listening to this on YouTube, hello. Don't forget to click subscribe and click that like button and comment down below. Tell me your thoughts. I would love to read them. I do read the comments. I will admit I do read the comments. So put your thoughts down below. Any things I can change, any things I can make better for you guys to listen. Anyway, I did say I had to talk about something that I've been kind of putting off for a little bit, and I think I should get into that. So, a little while ago, I want to say over a year ago, I picked up a sponsorship from a knockoff Manscaped company called SmoothMyBalls, and I thought I was going on to something big. Around that time, though, I had started a new chapter of my life, and things got crazy, and I kind of fell off the face of the earth on you guys and on the sponsorship. But I was kind of delighted a couple weeks ago to find out my code still worked, or not a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago or so, to find out that my code still worked. Now, as of recent, though, their site has gone offline, and I've learned some things. And if you guys have noticed, the more keen-eye viewers or listeners that read the fucking descriptions for some weird reason notice that the last couple episodes since I've started up again, I think except for the first one that I did starting up again, every other episode has not had my SmoothMyBalls code or the link in the description. And there's a reason for that. I'm embarrassed to admit that I got tricked by their little fucking scam. So I guess just let me explain. So a while back, they hit me up on Instagram and asked if I wanted to be an ambassador for their product, and I was actually elated. I was really elated that I got to be an ambassador for their product. I was more than excited. So I was like, yeah, fuck yeah. How do I do this? So they sent me a link and everything to the tester bundle, the review bundle. Turns out I'm an idiot and I'm very naive still, even though I'm going on 25 when it comes to sponsorships, because I spent my money on the review bundle. And don't get me wrong, I did get ripped off and I didn't get ripped off. I got the review bundle and a couple things with it to kind of do my review and then start doing my little fucking advertisements that you guys used to hear. And, well, I found out that that was just a little stupid ass scam that they got a lot of people with, where they would trick people into buying their products, which were actually, repurposed products with, a different like a different decal on them that you could get on Amazon for like 10 to 12 bucks. And yeah, they ended up taking a lot of these products from Amazon and repurposing them, wrapping them, making them look all nice with the SmoothMyBalls logo and everything, and jacked up the price on them as if they were another Manscaped company. And as of recent, their website has gone offline. I think their social medias are gone. There's no there's no trace of them on the fucking face of this earth, except for my advertisements, other people's advertisements, and people uncovering the scam, essentially. And I just want to say that I apologize if I know I have a small audience, but if you happen to have bought sorry, I just mixed two words together. Sorry, I'm just thinking ahead. If you managed to have bought a Smooth My Balls bundle or whatever with my code, I just want to apologize in advance that, I'm sorry that you spent your hard-earned money on something you probably could have got for cheaper as separate items. So I didn't know. I was also incredibly naive to it, but that's still no excuse. I probably should have looked a little bit more into who I was going to be doing an ambassadorship for, and I didn't. So that's on me, and I just wanted to apologize for that. And I wanted just to explain that's exactly why I don't have them in my description anymore. The advertisements are no longer a part of the podcast. It's just back to the regular one Anchor podcast advertisement. So I want to apologize to anyone who may have bought a Smooth My Balls razor with the code. You could have got it way cheaper on Amazon, and that's on me. I made no money off of it. Like, literally $0. I saw not a fucking cent. I spent money on the review bundle and saw not a single fucking cent out of that sponsorship. So you got fucked over just as much as I did. Anyway, you guys aren't here to hear about me and Smooth My Balls' relationship and how they're a fucking scam, essentially. I'm here to talk about some fights. So before we get into the UFC, let's just talk about the little events that happened this weekend, starting with the LFA. We had an LFA event where on the main card, we had quite a few fights at Canadian fighting, and we had the vacant featherweight title on the line. I love LFA. I've said it on the podcast before. They're one of the better promotions for prospects to build their careers and make their way into the UFC. I love that they're on UFC Fight Pass, so they're directly partnered with them, and it's basically a direct gateway there. I just love it, and I love the fights that always come out of it. But anyway, we had a pretty decent card of fights where in the first fight of the night, Canadian Ben Tynan won a first round arm triangle choke in the heavyweight division. And then in the lightweight division, Jacoby Jones finished Riley Westman via a corner stoppage in the first round. Next fight was a 170 contest between Jeremiah Curtright and Ryan Charlebois, I believe. And that ended up ending in a disqualification where Ryan Charlebois landed some illegal strikes where they were deemed intentional, and he ended up losing via disqualification. Jeremiah Curtright picking up the DQ win, the Dairy Queen win. Nobody wants a Blizzard win. But it's a win. A win's a win. The next fight, however, ended the same way. However, it wasn't illegal. It was legal, everyone. It was while they were standing. Trey Waters picks up a knee to the head KO in the third round, near the end of the third round, against Benjamin Bennett. And in the co-main event, we had I believe a Serbian fighter. I could be wrong. Haris Talunjic up against a Chinese-looking fighter. I believe that's the flag. Bahade Bole. Bate Bolati. Jesus Christ. It's another week of me fucking up names, everyone. Yay! But, Harris ended up picking up the unanimous decision win. And that brings us to the main event, where Jose Delano and Michael Stack went up against each other for the vacant featherweight championship, where Jose Delano scored a unanimous decision win over Michael Stack to become the new LFA featherweight champion. I love it. I love these promotions. It was a great night of fights. That brings me on to the next fight. I just want to talk about Icon FC real quick, because Bo Nickal, everybody, made his fucking pro debut, and he made it in style. He made an absolute statement when he made his debut. He was going up against John Nolan, who was also making his pro debut, and Bo Nickal just took his soul in about 30 seconds. Now, people who know who Bo Nickal is but didn't know how he won last night, last night. It was last night. No, it was Friday. It wasn't last night. Sorry, it was the night before. But anyone who didn't see how he won but knows who Bo Nickal is, how would you expect he won? I said he took the guy's soul. How would you expect he took the guy's soul? You'd say he choked him out or something, right? No, he fucking knocked him out on the feet. He fucking knocked him out with a crisp combo that just flattened the guy on his back, dude. It was brutal. And I said it on Twitter, and I'll say it again here on the podcast. If Bo Nickal continues to work and work and work on his game, he is going to be a major fucking problem. Those hands have power, and he's got a world-class wrestling background, dude. So if he works on his stand-up a lot more, and, still works on his ground game more as well, he becomes a major fucking problem for everyone at middleweight, because that man is talented. That was a beautiful knockout. And like I said, world-class wrestling. Man's going to be a problem in MMA. I can't wait to see Bo Nickal in his next fight. I'm a fan. Like, I'm a big fan now. That brings us to the next card, though. We're going to go to Titan FC 77, where it was 5 fights. Count them, 5 fights. It was a weird card. We had the first fight where 2 guys were making their pro debut. Robelis Daspagne going up against Katumba Malumba. I love that name. When they said it the night of on Friday, I laughed, and I love it. Katumba Malumba. It sounds like a cartoon character's name, but I love it. Anyway, Robelis picked up the knockout victory, where he scored a right uppercut and a hook combo that just flatlined Katumba. And we move on to our next fight, where it was originally, this is a weird one. Usually you save these for actual full-on grappling cards, but not Titan, guys, not Titan. We had a grappling match between UFC fighter Charles Rosa and Julio Cesar Chavez. And this was originally supposed to be a Dean Barry fight. Yes, that Dean Barry. When I heard Dean Barry was fighting, I was so excited. I was ready to comment about some more sloppy fighting. But Dean Barry, I think, had an issue with something like his travel or something. Or maybe it was like a weight cut. I think, yeah, he was trying to make weight. He was like sick or something when he was making weight. He went to the hospital, got checked out. They told him he could no longer fight. So they had to find a replacement on like a couple hours notice. Charles Rosa stepped in and said, "Hey, let's fucking grapple." And they grappled into a draw, surprisingly. Julio Cesar Chavez survived some deep submission attempts from Charles Rosa to survive into a draw, which went to a 10-minute round and then a 10-minute overtime round. So anyway, that brings us into our next fight, which was a heavyweight bout between 2-0 Daquan Buckley and pro debuting Daquan Fuse. Yes, Daquan and Daquan. I shit you not, though, they're spelt different ways. But It was a close-fought fight where Daquan Buckley used his grappling against the cage to just edge out a victory, where he would use the cage to just pin Daquan Fuse there, land some good shots, and then set up a takedown, where that's where the rest of the fight would go. But Daquan Fuse almost got Daquan Buckley a couple times with some good shots, almost finished the fight. Daquan Buckley wins himself a split decision against Daquan Fuse, moving himself to 3-0. In the co-main event, we had Wendell Araujo going up against Saul Guerrero, and that was a very hard-fought fight. A fight that was expected between these two guys, considering Wendell Araujo brings the fight, and so does Saul Guerrero. But Saul Guerrero bringing the fight, but not enough, where Wendell Araujo was dropping him, and just both guys going back and forth, where the judges gave Wendell the nod via majority decision. That brings us to the main event, and I wanted to talk about the main event because it was a weird main event. We had a 24-25 guy going up against Luis Pena, former UFC fighter Luis Pena, who actually was doing pretty decent. I believe he was like 2-3 during his time in the UFC, 2-4, something like that, and wasn't going to get released until, I don't think I was doing the podcast at the time, but Luis Pena is currently being investigated, or was accused of domestic battery, and even being arrested of it. So, yeah, and it's been multiple times now. The UFC released him. He did have a fight in, I believe, ACA, where it was going to be part of their lightweight Grand Prix, but I believe they dropped him after another case came up. Titan is still allowing him to fight, though. If you guys remember, last weekend, I believe, he fought another guy. This one, he's fighting a veteran in Gustavo Wurlitzer. And Luis Pena, as expected, picks up the TKO, where he drops Wurlitzer against the cage and just incites a brutal onslaught of fucking ground and pound. It was vicious. But yeah, Luis Pena gets the win. And that was Titan FC 77. Those were the cards we had going on this weekend. We also had that Chinese tournament that I was talking about last weekend, where, Chinese prospects fight in a tournament every year. That was going on, but I didn't watch it because, as always, it started at like 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and I didn't wake up on a fucking Saturday at 7 a.m. So I didn't catch it, but we had, other fights like BTC 15, where Adam Asenza, one of my favorite non-UFC fighters that I think should be in the UFC, picked up a TKO victory. And a fucking Bruce and Gray County native in Blair West getting a TKO doctor stoppage loss, unfortunately, but making his pro debut, so that was exciting. I'm going to try to get either him or his opponent, Nathan Smalls, on the podcast eventually, just to talk about the whole experience and everything, because I always love to talk about the experience, man. I always love to get that point of view, and I always love to learn more about it. So, that was a cool experience. Somebody from Bruce County, basically my hometown, my home fucking area, making his pro debut in MMA on a pretty decent sized show in Burlington. So that was pretty cool. That's like the dream, man, but I know I could never fucking do that. Anyway, let's move on to the UFC, because a lot of you were here for that. We had a pretty decent weekend of fights. By name, it didn't look like a good card. Like I said, by name, didn't look fucking promising at all. But with the caliber of fights we got some fucking bangers. So, I say, let's get the fuck into it. So, starting things off, we've got Erin Blanchfield going up against JJ Aldrich. I believe Erin actually called for this fight. They gave her this fight. JJ was very happy to oblige. And holy fucking shit, Erin Blanchfield showing that she is going to be a complete fucking problem in this flyweight division. She is a definite contender with the way she completely dominated Aldrich from round 1 all the way till her dominant submission in round 2. It was just a domination of strikes on the feet and then on the ground. It was constant grappling until her standing guillotine finish against the cage. It was incredible. Erin Blanchfield had an incredible showing last night. At me, I don't care. The next fight was a welterweight bout between Hanat Fakhretdinov and Andreas Michailidis. Andreas Michailidis is coming off of a loss against Alex Bahia, the kickboxer who knocked out Israel Adesanya. Hanat Fakhretdinov, I believe, was making his debut in the UFC and had an incredible debut where, as you expected from a dude named Fakhretdinov, he had a wrestling-heavy approach against Andreas Michailidis and dominated him from start to bell and just scored himself a complete unanimous decision. That speaking of decisions, that brings us to our next fight. A flyweight fight between Jeff Molina and Zhalgas Zhumagulov. And I was excited about this one. I was actually expecting fireworks with this one. And we kind of got a decent fight, but it was rather boring with the way Zhumagulov was fighting. He was incredibly grapple heavy. Jeff Molina just stuffing a lot of them and just striking his way to a split decision victory. A lot of people not happy about the decision, not because it went the wrong way. A lot of people agree with the way the decision went. Oh, the only guy who's basically angry with it are fans of Zhumagulov and Zhumagulov himself. It was the judges' scorecard that a lot of people were upset about. It was 29-28 for Zhumagulov, 29-28 for Jeff Molina. That both sounds very reasonable. And then 30-27 for Jeff Molina. I don't know about you guys, but he did not win the first round. I was watching the same fight as everybody else. He did not win that first round. There was not much that could constitute a 10-9 round for either guy other than the grappling, and Zhumagulov had the better of that against the cage. The second round, though, had way more striking from Jeff Molina, and so did the third round. And honestly, I could see where the judges were going for the Jeff Molina decision, but I think the guy who fucking gave a 30-27 for Jeff Molina should be drug tested. I love Jeff Molina. He's a guy. He's a great guy. I want to get him on the podcast eventually because I bet he'd be a lot of fun to fucking talk to. But that 30-27 is so fucking suspect, man. That was just no. Nope. No, not cool. Anyway, that brings us to the next fight, which was a bantamweight fight between Johnny Munoz and Tony Gravely. And holy fuck, this one ended fast. For about, I want to say a minute of them feeling each other out, trying to range each other's distances. About a minute and 8 seconds in, Tony Gravely, as Johnny Munoz is coming in for a takedown, lands this short uppercut that drops Johnny Munoz, and Tony Gravely swarms him with vicious punches to pick up a very quick knockout win. Holy shit, it was incredible. I remember looking away from the screen for just a moment, and then hearing, oh! And then I look, and he's fucking just spamming punches down, just knocking the fuck out of Johnny Munoz. It was awesome. And then the next fight. The next fight was a fucking grind fest, man. Nicholas Stolze going up against Benoit Saint Denis. These guys had an absolute grind fest on the ground and on the feet. Nicholas Stolze giving Benoit Saint Denis a problem on the feet, and then when it went to the ground, Nicholas Stolze was no slouch on the ground, scrambling to dominant positions and Saint Denis fighting for submissions. But ultimately, in round number 2, Benoit Saint Denis picked up, I believe it was a rear naked choke, that ended up picking him up the victory. And, congrats to him. But it was a hard-fought fight. It was a really fun fight. And speaking of fun fights, that brings us to our next fight, which was a short-notice fight. A featherweight fight between Damon Jackson and usually bantamweight and former LFA bantamweight champion Dan Argueta, who's also a former contestant on The Ultimate Fighter Season 29. He took a short notice fight against Damon Jackson, who was originally supposed to fight Derek Menier, but I believe Derek Menier had to pull out via an injury, and Dan Argueta was like, I want this. And he gave Damon Jackson a hard fight. For about a round and a half, Damon Jackson dominated him on the ground, but then as soon as, it was showing that Damon Jackson was getting a little tired, Dan Argueta was giving him a fight. Damon Jackson was still kind of dominating him to the end of the second round. But then the third round, Dan Argueta came out swinging, had Damon Jackson against the fence, almost finished a couple times. I genuinely thought, I'm not kidding here, guys. I genuinely thought Dan Argueta was going to get the finish a couple times. I thought Damon Jackson was in trouble. But Damon Jackson, forever the veteran, initiated the clinch each time and just minimized that striking so he could recover. Great veteran move. It was just an all-around amazing fight, but Damon Jackson picked up the 29-28 unanimous decision, moving on to a 21-4. That brings us to another unanimous decision win where Joe Selecki completely just grinds himself out a decision win against Alex da Silva Coelho. And it was forgettable. There wasn't really much to say. Good win for Joe Selecki. He's back. He's back at it again. So good on him. That brings us to the prelim headliner, the main event of the prelims. This was my favorite fight of the night. I mean, I had other favorite fights, but hands down, this was my favorite fight of the night. I'm always a fan of Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I love her. I was so sad to see her going on a 5-fight skid, but she just broke that shit with a complete fucking steamroll of Felice Herrig, where she just from start to finish was threatening strikes and submissions. Like, she was hitting heavy strikes on the feet to the point where I thought she was hurting Felice a couple times, and one of the shots was so hard it looked like she jammed her fucking wrist. And then in the second round, when it got to the ground, it was a complete domination from there, where it was just constant threat of like guillotines and rear nakeds, mostly rear naked chokes on the back, where she finally sunk one in and Felice Herrig had to tap. And Karolina Kowalkiewicz picked up herself a win. She is finally back in the win column, and I'm so fucking happy to see her back in the win column. Like, holy fuck, man. But that also brings to the table, Felice Herrig took off her gloves last night and put them down in the octagon, signaling that she is officially retiring from the UFC and from MMA as a whole. So with that, I wish her luck in her future endeavors, and I hope that she's happy in whatever she decides to do. I loved watching her in the octagon. She was one of the more exciting women's fighters, and I'm sure people are gonna miss her, and I hope she has a great rest of her life and a fulfilling future, genuinely. That brings us to the main card, though. We're blowing through this shit fast, but as always, I have to cover next week's card because next week's a pay-per-view, so I will be doing that. This one's going to be a quick episode, but like I said, I'm still going to have to do UFC 275 and the card after that because UFC 275, man, is looking to be an incredible card. I say it every fucking podcast, but I'm just excited for it, genuinely. But anyway, let's get into that main card, folks. Let's fucking do it. The first fight of the night was Alonzo Menefield versus Askar Mozaharov. And Mozaharov had a little bit of a controversy leading up to fight week because it seemed, we don't know who was doing it, but somebody was fucking with his fight record. At one point, his fight record said he was 21-7. And now, now, because Alonzo Menefield steamrolled him and finished him in the first round via TKO, now he's going to say 19-13, but at the time, it changed to 19-12 all of a sudden. And then Mozaharov is saying that nobody was fucking with his fight record. It was a mistake. It should have been 19-12 the whole time. Like, it was just so fucking weird. But anyway, Alonzo Menefield picks up the TKO win in the first round, starting the main card off with a bang. And then, if that wasn't enough, Ode Osborne facing Zaruki Adashev, fucking picking up the first round brutal KO of Adashev. But this one bothered me because looking at the record, Adashev was like 4-3 coming into this, I believe. And I don't know, man. Ode Osborne has gone up against a lot better competition. Let's be fucking real. And this I felt like was a give me fight. And it just kind of left a sour taste in my mouth. But the next fight was awesome because we had Katrina Silva up against Polyana Patello. And Katrina Silva, in the last 5 seconds of the first round, picks up a submission win over Polyana. Just keeping the fucking streak of finishes on. That brings us to a featherweight banger between Mike Trezano and Lucas Almeida, where both guys, holy fuck, were throwing fucking leather. And Mike Trezano just throwing leather despite eating absolute shots that were hurting him and rocking him. But ultimately, one man can only take so much punishment And 55 seconds into the third round, Lucas Almeida picks up a TKO finish of Mike Trizano. Mike Trizano, forever the warrior, just showing us absolute heart in a possible fight of the night, in my opinion. And Lucas Almeida just continuing his rise with a beautiful TKO finish. And if that wasn't enough, we had another featherweight fight, a featherweight co-main event between Dan Ige and one of my favorite fucking European fighters, Movsar Evelev. Holy shit, complete domination from Movsar. I believe Dan Ige called this guy out, or Movsar called Dan Ige out, and he was like, fuck yeah, I want this guy. So this was made happen because of that, and Movsar completely dominated Dan Ige from start to finish, nullified his striking, and just completely dominated him on the ground as expected, but like just threatened submissions, cut him up, fucking elbowed, and like his stand-up was incredible too. Like I can't even take away from Movsar's stand-up. His stand-up against the cage is brutal. He, at a moment's notice, like a snap of the finger, fucking just lands elbows on you, cuts you open, lands punches, lands knees. He's constantly threatening knees, so even if you need to do a takedown just to survive, you have to watch out for those fucking knees because one will land. It was just brutal, dude. It was amazing. Dan Ige, forever a tough guy, way too tough for his own good, but Movsar Evelev picking up the absolute unanimous decision win over Dan Ige. And honestly, I think come Wednesday or Tuesday, whenever they update the rankings, he's going to have a number 10 or a number 9 beside his name. He's top 10 now. Movsar has put this division on notice. He has put the featherweights on notice, and I'm excited for it. That brings us to the main event of the evening. That brings us to the main event of the evening between Alexander Volkov and Jairzinho Rozenstruik. And this one is marred in controversy because it was a great fight on paper, great fight in the octagon, both guys starting strong, both guys landing heavy shots, where it was ultimately Alexander Volkov who landed heavy shots against the cage, where I guess it looked like Jairzinho was in trouble, and Herb Dean, I believe it was, stepped in, ending the fight. Jairzinho didn't seem too happy about the stoppage. Volkov, he seemed to have accepted it, but you could tell he was like, oh man, I didn't want it to be, like, I didn't want the referee stoppage to be that way. I wanted it to be a little bit more definitive. You know, I wanted it to be more like, okay, he did TKO that guy, or he did knock out that guy. But you could tell he was all willing to accept it. It's just, you could tell he himself was disappointed before the decision was even announced. And that brings me to my opinion. I know you guys don't want it, but we need to kill some time here. And I wanted to talk about it. Personally, I've watched it back. And yeah, Jairzinho took a heavy shot. But I've seen guys in a lot worse trouble in the heavyweight division, where they could actually initiate a clinch situation or grapple and survive. And that is kind of what Jairzinho was trying to do. He was definitely trying to survive, but it's like he didn't even give Jairzinho a chance to actually recover. It was like he got hit with a shot that kind of tipped him over a bit. Volkov hit one or two more shots that didn't even seem to really hurt Jairzinho, and Herb Dean stepped in. And honestly, I was kind of confused with the stoppage. I wasn't mad with it, but I do see where Jairzinho's coming from. It was an early stoppage. It was definitely an early stoppage. It was definitely another Herb Dean fuck up by every sense of the fucking word. It was a Herb Dean fuck up. It was a Herb Dean fuck up without a fucking doubt, man. And it disappoints me that it ended this way, but good win for Alexander Volkov, I guess. Tough luck for Jairzinho Rozenstruik. I don't think Dana agreed with the stoppage either. I could see it being run back as well. So another fight night main event that ends in controversy that has to be run back potentially because a lot of people didn't agree with it, including the promoter and, including some of the fighters themselves. So, I mean, I don't know what that fucking says, but I don't know. It's just a big thing to talk about. I thought it was kind of neat that 2 events in a row marred in controversy. That being said, that was it for this weekend. Besides the main event being marred in controversy, the entire fight night was incredible. It started really early. It was on at 1 p.m. So like it was an afternoon card. I could order myself some lunch or make myself some lunch, something like that, whatever I chose to. I believe I made myself some lunch. And and then sit down and watch the fights. And then, towards the end of the evening, around 7 o'clock, the fights are ending. So then, hockey's on, or I don't know, boxing's on. I could watch either one of those things and enjoy it. So it was pretty cool how early the fights were on. Just, you never get to see too much of that, except for like maybe if they're in Singapore or in London or something. But anyway, it was a pretty decent card nonetheless, despite the main event ending in controversy. I enjoyed it, despite the names on the cards not popping out to me. I enjoyed watching it from start to finish. I always watch every card from prelim to main event, so I was actually happy with what I was given this week. So anyway, that's it for the UFC. Now, let's actually cover some of the upcoming UFC events, because there are two I want to talk about. The one I talk about always, and the one after that. So let's talk about that. Alrighty. So, let's get into this. So, in the prelims, we have people like Andre Fiallo and Jake Matthews going against each other. And then we have Brendan Allen versus Jacob Malkoun. Both are incredible fucking fights, in my opinion. And then, let's just take a quick little glance at this main card, guys. This main card is absolutely nothing to fucking scoff at. Let's just take a look at that first fight alone. Jack Della Maddalena and Ramazan Emiev. Holy fuck, that's going to be a fucking banger. Jack Della Maddalena always brings the fight. And fucking Ramazan is a gangster, dude. He is a tough fight. That is going to be a great fight to start off. And then we have a flyweight fight. Rogerio Bontorin and Manuel Kopp. Manuel Kopp brings the fight every time. We always see fancy-ass TKOs and KOs when it comes to him. Or we see him get decisioned. But Rogerio Bontorin isn't one of those guys that's just going to decision a man to death. He's always chasing the finish too, and I don't know. I'm just excited for this fight, but that's not it at all. We still have 3 more fights to talk about. The next fight that I'm about to talk about, I think should be 5 fucking rounds. It should be considered a 5-rounder. They should do what they did with Nate Diaz and Leon Edwards. A featured bout that's not a co-main or a main. That's 5 rounds. A non-title belt, that's 5 rounds. Weili Zhang and Joanna fucking Violence Jędrzejczyk. Holy shit. I don't know, man. If you guys didn't watch their first fight back in March of 2020, I gotta say, dude, it is hands down one of the best fights of all time in MMA history, and is hands down the greatest women's fight of all time. It is incredible. They fucking put their absolute heart out there. The grappling was on point. The striking was insane. Fucking Joanna's hematoma. Holy fuck, dude. It was the size of... Well, fuck. Those motherfuckers from Mega... It was the size of Megamind. It was the size of fucking Megamind's head. That's how big her hematoma was. That's how fucking violent this fight was. It was awesome. Hands down, the greatest women's fight in history, and they're running it back. This should be 5 rounds. I'm upset it's not 5 rounds. I don't know why it's not 5 rounds. It's a no-brainer. You made Leon Edwards and Nate Diaz 5 rounds. Why not make this 5 rounds? The fans want it. You want it. Everybody loves it. 5 rounds of just pure violence like that again would be an amazing way to see who fucking fights Carla Esparza again. Seriously, it would be an incredible way to see who fights Carla Esparza. And I cannot wait for this. I just wish it was 5 rounds. I think out of all the fights on the card, I'm excited for this one the most. I fucking love this fight. I'm glad that they're running this back. That brings us to the co-main event, though, where we have another banger women's fight, where Talia Santos, an absolute killer, always looking for the finish, whether it's a KO or a submission, going up against the most dangerous flyweight of all time, Valentina Shevchenko. And if Talia Santos fucking has a chin and has a heart, we might see a fucking banger fight, and we might see Valentina's first genuine challenge as a fucking champion. So, If that doesn't pique your interest, then God, I don't know what will. You know what I mean? Like, that's insane. And then in the main event, we have monster knockout machine Yuri Prochazka going up against old man strength at its best, Glover Teixeira. Like, this man is like, he's the runner-up for the fucking Randy Couture old man trophy. Like, this man is like 42, 41, something like that, and is the light heavyweight champion of the world. Made quick work of Jan Blachowicz, nullified his game plan, took him to the ground, and choked his ass out. And he's going up against a young gun, and Yuri Prochazka. And holy shit, dude, I'm excited for this fight too. Not as excited as the Weili Zhang and Joanna fight, but the Glover and Yuri fight is definitely one that I'm super excited for, because Glover is no slouch on the ground, and he can strike too. And Yuri's still a little bit inexperienced, but the man's a fucking monster. He can put your lights out in an instant. The man is a scary light heavyweight. So we could see a new champion, but we could also see old man Glover upset the masses yet again. I can't wait. UFC 275 is going to be amazing. I can't fucking wait. Anyway, that brings us to the next card. The last card I'm going to be covering for this week, and it is UFC Fight Night, Kattar versus Emmett. That main event alone, dude, that main event alone is fucking insane. It's bananas. But we do have a pretty stacked prelims. We have Roman fucking Dolidze going up against Kyle Dawkins, and then Phil Haas going up against Darren Wynn. I can't believe he's actually returning. I didn't know where Darren Wynn went. I was surprised he came back. Cody Stamann up against Eddie Wineland. Yeah, that's right. Eddie Wineland is returning. Fucking Maria Oliveira going up against Gloria DePaula. And then Court McGee is returning against Jeremiah Wells. And then Jasmine Jadzuvicius going up against Natalia Silva. That's just the prelims, dude. We also have a stacked fucking main card if you want to fucking, like, you know, get technical here. We've got Julian Marquez going up against Gregory Rodriguez. And then Damir Azmagulov going up against fucking Kudzeladze. Then we have Joaquin Buckley and fucking Albert Durarev, Kevin Holland and Tim Means. And then fucking the fight that I'm excited for the most, other than the main event, Donald Cerrone and Joe Lozon. Like, that's going to be a fucking banger. And then we're going to be right into another banger between two absolute bombing strikers, Calvin Kattar and Josh Emmett. Like, what more would you want as a UFC fan? The next 2 weeks, we are fucking spoiled, my guys. We are spoiled. And on top of that, we have shit like LFA 130 fucking 4 and other cards going on. Like, we have so much MMA happening. PFL 4. I believe there's another Bellator card slated to happen. Like, this is insane. We have so much MMA happening in the next week. And the UFCs that we're having in the next 2 weeks, we are set as MMA fans, without a doubt. But anyway, that's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you listened all the way through, check this out on YouTube if you want to have another place to listen to this on. If you are on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and stay tuned for another episode. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Peace out, guys.
You've been listening to the Dillo's Dojo podcast. Keep in touch with Dillo on his social media at Dillo Ross on Twitter and Dillo Ross on Instagram.